I used to genuinely pick up my phone over 100 times a day, honestly, without ever consciously deciding to actually do it even once, in any real, deliberate way. I'd reach for it the moment I felt even slightly bored, slightly uncomfortable, or genuinely unsure what to actually do with my hands for even 5 seconds at a time. It had quietly become the automatic answer to literally everything, an entire relationship I never consciously agreed to enter into in the first place, without ever really noticing it happening. So I actually changed 9 specific things, one at a time, over several months, and that constant, automatic pull finally, genuinely broke for good, piece by piece. The first thing I actually did was delete every single social media app directly off my home screen completely. Not deactivated. Actually deleted, honestly, forcing myself to log in manually through a browser if I genuinely needed something specific from it. That tiny bit of added friction alone stopped probably 80% of my mindless, automatic scrolling almost immediately, within the first genuine week of actually doing it. The second thing I actually did was turn off nearly every single notification that wasn't genuinely essential to my actual daily life, going through every single app deliberately, one at a time, over the course of an entire evening. No more buzzing every time someone liked something on a post I'd already forgotten about completely. No more constant alerts pulling my attention directly away from whatever I was actually doing at that exact moment, interrupting real conversations and real focus that actually mattered. I kept calls and genuine messages from real people I actually cared about, and quietly turned off absolutely everything else that existed purely to pull me back in artificially, again and again, throughout the day. My phone genuinely stopped interrupting me constantly, and honestly, I stopped expecting it to have something urgent waiting every single time I glanced at it out of pure habit, without any real reason behind it at all. The third thing I actually did was switch my entire screen to grayscale, removing every single bit of color from my phone completely, on purpose, in the actual settings menu. This genuinely sounds small, honestly, almost silly to even mention seriously to anyone. But those bright, vivid colors are actually engineered deliberately, by real teams of people, to keep your eyes hooked and constantly wanting more stimulation without you fully realizing it. Once everything turned dull and gray, my phone genuinely stopped feeling nearly as exciting to look at, and I found myself picking it up considerably less often throughout the day, almost without even really trying consciously to do it at all. It simply stopped being genuinely interesting to look at. The fourth thing I actually did was start charging my phone genuinely outside my actual bedroom every single night, without exception, or any real excuses given to myself. No more scrolling right before falling asleep, staring at a bright screen in a dark room for an hour without noticing the time passing. No more reaching for it groggily the exact moment I actually woke up each morning, still half asleep and barely conscious. Buying a simple, cheap alarm clock instead was honestly one of the best small decisions I made throughout this entire process, more valuable than it initially seemed. My mornings and my nights slowly started belonging to me again, completely, instead of quietly belonging to whatever app happened to be waiting patiently for my attention the moment I picked the phone back up first thing. The fifth thing I actually did was set actual hard limits directly using my phone's own built-in screen time tools, deliberately making them genuinely difficult to override in a weak moment, on purpose and with real intention behind it. I set a specific daily limit on the apps that quietly drained the most time from me, and I made the passcode considerably harder to actually bypass casually, sometimes even asking someone else I trusted to set it for me instead. This meant that in the exact moment temptation genuinely hit, there was real, deliberate friction actually standing in the way, instead of instant, effortless access whenever I wanted it without a second thought given to it. That small barrier alone saved me from countless mindless scrolling sessions I would have otherwise fallen into completely automatically, without ever really noticing it happening at all. The sixth thing I actually did was start keeping an actual physical book within genuine arm's reach, everywhere I typically used to reach for my phone instead automatically throughout the day, without much real thought. On the nightstand. On the couch. In my actual bag whenever I left the house for anything at all, even short errands that used to fill with mindless scrolling instead. My hands genuinely needed something to actually do during those small, quiet, empty moments, and giving them a real, physical alternative meant I wasn't constantly fighting my own natural instinct to reach for something nearby out of pure boredom or restlessness. I ended up genuinely reading more books that single year than I honestly had in the previous 5 years completely combined, which genuinely surprised me when I actually counted them up at the end. The seventh thing I actually did was practice a genuine 10-second pause before actually picking my phone up at all, every single time I felt that automatic urge arrive out of nowhere, unprompted and reflexive. Just 10 honest seconds, asking myself directly what I was actually reaching for it to do specifically, in that exact moment, before letting my hand move automatically. Most of the time, honestly, I genuinely couldn't answer that simple question clearly at all, which told me everything I actually needed to know about the real urge itself hiding underneath it, quietly. It wasn't actually about needing something specific or important in that moment. It was simply an old, automatic habit firing on its own, completely disconnected from any genuine, real need I actually had at the time. The eighth thing I actually did was genuinely tell close friends and family directly what I was actually trying to do, and ask them honestly to gently call it out whenever they actually noticed me mindlessly scrolling in front of them, without getting defensive or annoyed about it. That small layer of real social accountability made an enormous difference, honestly, in ways I genuinely didn't expect beforehand at all, in the early stages of this whole process. It's remarkably easy to quietly break a private promise made only to yourself in the silence of your own head, with nobody else ever actually knowing about it happening. It's considerably harder to break one that other people who genuinely care about you are actually aware of and gently watching for, with real, honest concern behind it the entire time. The ninth and final thing I actually did was genuinely fill the empty space my phone used to constantly occupy with something real and tangible instead, deliberately, and on purpose. I picked up cooking properly for the first time in years, actually following recipes instead of ordering something quickly online. I started taking regular walks outside without bringing my phone along at all, leaving it charging at home instead. I called actual people directly instead of quietly texting them back and forth for hours without any real connection happening between us. These 9 specific changes, honestly, taken together, didn't happen overnight for me at all, and I want to be completely honest about that part up front. It took genuine months of consistent, deliberate effort before it actually started feeling natural instead of forced and uncomfortable. But today, my phone genuinely feels like a simple tool I actually use on purpose, instead of a constant, invisible leash quietly pulling me back toward it every few minutes without my real permission or awareness. If you're genuinely struggling with the exact same thing I was, start with just one of these 9 things this week, whichever one feels most realistic for you right now. You don't actually need to do all 9 at once to genuinely see real change begin.